The three things you need for a hood are the 2 mesh hood pieces, the 2 nylon pieces, and the draw cord with the cord locks and beads on it. First of all, we're going to sew 2 curved seams on the center of the hood on each of the nylon and mesh pieces. You can use a 1/2 inch seam on these and a medium stitch length. And please back stitch at both ends. I like to chain off when I sew by doing this, because then I don't have any threads to cut off at the end. And you can do these seams with a straight stitch machine or with a serger. Next, I'm going to open up both of these hood pieces and line them up right sides together along the straight front edge of the hood. Easiest way, I guess, is turn one of them inside out and slide it inside the other. Now when you line these up, start at the center seam, push the seam allowances both going the same way, and use a few pins on this one. When you line this up, the mesh often does not line up with the nylon, so it's okay, just lay it down flat, line up the edges, stick a couple of pins in there. And you can see this, oh, this one lined up pretty good. Sometimes they're a little bit longer. If they are, no worries. And then do the same thing on the other side, right here. Okay, I've got this all pinned. This is another step that can be done on a straight stitch machine or a serger. Either machine, it works best if you sew with the mesh side down, because it is stretchy. So, 1/2 inch seam again, back stitch, and sew all the way around where you pinned. To avoid breaking needles by hitting pins, sew up to the pin, take it out, and then keep going. Okay, here's my hood with the front seam sewn. The next thing is to make a buttonhole for the draw cord to come through. Measure about 3 inches from the bottom of the nylon and about 1/2 inch in from your seam. And that's where you want your buttonhole to go. It'll be about 1/4 inch long is all. I want to mention, when you're doing these buttonholes for the casings, you can do them from the right side or the wrong side of the nylon. Try a sample buttonhole first on a scrap of nylon. If the nylon puckers, then you just use a piece of Pellon or stitch and tear on the wrong side of the fabric where you're going to sew the buttonhole, and that will make it so it will make a nice flat buttonhole that doesn't pucker. And if they do pucker, all that we need, I'm not worried about the pucker so much as being able to feed a threading tool through the buttonhole. So if you can feed something through there, it's good enough. Please don't unpick it. Okay, I'm going to do a 1/4 inch buttonhole. My favorite way to open a buttonhole is with a nice sharp pair of embroidery scissors, because you have better control over what you're cutting than you do with a seam ripper. Okay, there's our buttonhole. Okay, next I'm going to sew the casing for the drawcord to go into by folding the nylon and mesh front seam over and sewing about 1 inch from the edge all the way around the front. I can see my buttonhole was a little bit closer than I wanted to the edge, but that's okay. It's in the casing, so it's good. Okay, there's the casing. Okay, to thread the drawcord, your kit came with a drawcord that has one end through the cord lock twice, and the other end has the bead and the cord lock through once. So take that end off, and then to feed it through the casing, you can use a good old-fashioned safety pin. Some other tools I like to use are a blunt needle like they use for sewing on plastic canvas, and this tool is a drawstring cord threader. It's my favorite because it's the longest and fastest. So it threads there. This one I purchased at Joann's. Can't remember if it was $3 or $4. So it goes from one buttonhole to the other buttonhole first. Then the second cord lock gets put on like this. Elastic through the cord lock first, then through the bead, then back through the cord lock, like that. Then you use your threader to thread the ends back through these holes so the ends of the elastic are coming out the bottom of the hood. Okay, I stuck this threader up backwards, put the elastic through the hole, and I'm going to pull it down that way. So the ends, both ends are now sticking out the bottom of the nylon. Okay, last step on the drawcord, make sure it's straight in the casing. This has a little bit of extra in it, so I'm going to straighten that out. Pull out the extra down there at the bottom. Okay, so you're going to take these ends, stick them back up into the casing so they're actually a J shape. And the bottom of the J needs to be up about a ½ inch from the bottom of the hood. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that, but there's my J right there. And you're just going to straight stitch across there to hold that in place. The last step on this hood is to either serge this bottom edge or trim it off so the layers are even and do a zigzag to base those edges together and keep these from fraying. Then you're done with the hood.